Welcome to MedMen. My name's Pim, and that's Andy.
And what are we talking about today, Pim?
Today, Andy, we are talking about whether MEDDIC is a process. So, what do you think?
The short answer is no. MEDDIC is not a process, because you have to be very careful here, because people do genuinely think that like MEDDIC's bad because you know, why would you start with the metrics and then would you go to economic? Genuinely, I've lost count.
That wouldn't work.
I mean, it wouldn't work anyway, But the idea of like people think that MEDDIC is already bad enough. So we have to be very clear. No, it's not a process, but it's not quite as straightforward as that, right?
Oh, what deal is ever straightforward though?
No deal is straightforward. The idea of thinking that a deal is a linear process that happens through a set of confirmed steps and stages is madness, right? Absolute madness. So no, it's not a process, but it doesn't mean that it can't be applied to your sales process. And therefore, when people talk about MEDDIC in a process context, I'm pretty sure that's what they mean. That's certainly what we mean when we talk to our customers about MEDDIC and process. We're talking about, well, let's embed MEDDIC in your process because it's a common language. It adds so much value when we start to be able to put in things like entrance criteria. Before we move to this stage, we want to make sure that we have a champion. Before we move to delivering a proposal, we want to make sure we've engaged with the economic buyer. We've even got customers have this great thing where they score MEDDPICC throughout the process, and therefore they look for the previous stage. The RevOps teams can start to use common language as another product of ours, MEDDICC Measure. They start to use the elements of MEDDPICC to measure the strength of an opportunity through stages. And we've seen some of our customers get quite scientific with this, where they can say, well, if we have a champion of 7 or above rating at this stage, it generally leads to these types of success further on. And obviously the opposite of that, if they've got a low score champion, it typically ends up in a worse opportunity, whether that means that they won't win or it means that it'll take longer or be one for a smaller deal size. Those are the types of things you see. So there's certainly value by embedding MEDDPICC into your process.
Yeah, I would say that the thing that we see with the customers that gain most traction from the get-go of an initiative are the ones that do this well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they look at their process and then they empower their leaders with like, hey, what are we looking for at each stage of the process, right? So in the beginning, like you're not looking for an M3 because that's something that you need to develop in collaboration with your champion and it takes time. So it's very clear for them, like, okay, this is what we are looking for here. These are the things that we're looking to influence. We have like a proposed champion that we're going to work with. And so there's something for every stage, to your point, with entry and exit criteria.
Mm-hmm.
And it creates a lot of consistency. But that's not the only thing, because by the time that people start operating like this, and that starts with the leadership layer, you keep on embedding MEDDPICC as a common language, right?
Yes.
Because everybody will have learned it. They know what the letters stand for. They have that level of proficiency. But this is how you mobilize it.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, you can underpin your process with it, but it's also like a massive enabler of making sure that you're actually embedding it and like eradicating a flavor of the month or year kind of syndrome.
Yeah. And another part here is that sales is a lot around process, not just the macro sales process, but there is a lot of what we would call plays, which are basically processes we're running, right?
Yeah.
If you think about the definition of a process, it's a series of steps that lead towards a desired outcome. You're trying to get here, and the best way of getting there is to go from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, for example. And so, of course, while we will say again, sales is not linear, it's not an out-and-out process. All kinds of things happen, and the best salespeople adapt and evolve, but also are proactive, kind of make things happen for themselves. But there are kind of mini processes that happen throughout these plays, a value pyramid. There's a particular process that goes into building a value pyramid. There's a particular process that goes into great discovery. There's a particular process that goes into building champions, a particular process that goes into accelerating the decision process, engaging with the economic buyer, all these things. So that's why I said right at the start, it's not quite as straightforward as, or binary as, is it process, is it not? I guess this comes back to that thing we always say is like, if you think about MEDDPICC as a common language, then you can make it whatever you want it to be, because you can't therefore say somebody's doing it wrong if they are in fact using it in the way in which they say they are.
That's it. Cheers, Andy.
Cheers.